We've lost the sultry heat of August and September, and the air is getting better in the morning. So I just want to, first of all, really give a warm welcome. If you can please help your hands for a delegation that has come from halfway across the world in the United States, and we're very excited for the first time to have American Montessori Society delegates here at American Montessori Public School. And as all of you know, my mother is a passionate Montessorian, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have you all here today with us. So I'm just going to give you a brief background on AMS. So American Montessori Society was started by charismatic educator Miss Nancy Rambush in 1960, a direct disciple of Mario Montessori, Dr. Maria Montessori's son, who carried her legacy globally. AMS plays a vital role in advancing the principles and practices of Montessori education, not only in the United States, but around the world. By providing resources, professional development opportunities, and advocacy efforts, AMS helps ensure the quality and integrity of Montessori education, setting the, quote, gold standard for all other organizations to follow. This is, I think, Anita's words. We got it off the website. Okay, so I just want to welcome Geoffrey Bishop here, who will be our first speaker. And we're very excited to have Mr. Bishop. He's originally Australian. He hails from the bush in northwest New South Wales, Australia. After his childhood spent on his family's sheep station, he went to an agricultural boarding school for 5 years, and then to university in both Sydney and Melbourne, where he studied horticulture and landscape architecture. For 10 years, he traveled the world, visiting over 80 countries, where he trekked in rural areas and learned about cultural diversity. In 1996, he started Nature's Classroom Institute of Wisconsin, Inc., a residential environment education program in the Midwest that helps students understand the natural environment, participate in ecosystem exploration and study, and work together with their peers and teachers as a community. Activities at the NCI include confidence building, group challenges, historical simulations, scientific explorations, and many more hands-on academic lessons. After developing a strong academic and environmental outdoor-based curriculum, he formed Nature's Classroom Montessori School that blends Montessori philosophy with his environmental principles. The school is on 400 acres in a small rural community of Mukwonego, am I saying it? Did I distort it? Wisconsin. Geoffrey's passionate and sustained focus over the past 15 years has been on organics and sustainability in schools, while promoting getting children back outdoors and helping adults understand the importance of instinctive play in the natural world. And I'm an environmentalist. All of you, at least in the AMS community, know that, MPS community here. So I'm so excited and so thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much.
So, as was introduced, I grew up in Australia, and as a very young child, there'll be a couple of slides coming up, you'll see me as a little type. As a young child, I was the youngest of 7, and when I was born, I think my parents had had enough children, so at the age of 1.5, I was chuffed outside to spend my early childhood on our 3,500 acre property. And some of you might know about Australia. Australia is home of some of the world's deadliest snakes. It's also home to scorpions and spiders that will put you in hospital for many, many weeks. And at the age of 2 and 3, I survived all that. And later in life, when I was studying and learning about the world, I started to think, you can stick this, actually. I was starting to think, how as an early child, at the age of 2 and 3, did I survive in such an incredibly harsh world? So I would spend literally the day outside, and one of the things I remember, I would be running through tall grass. I had a dog with me, his name was Dumbo. I'd be running through tall grass, and then instantly my body would stop in slow motion. And I would look down, and there'd be a snake, either a red-bellied black or a brown, right underneath me. And I started at an adult age, I started to think, what was it that told me you need to stop? Because if you put your foot down, you're going to be on a snake, and he's going to bite me, and then I'm going to keel over. So there's an instinctive fifth or sixth sense that we develop in childhood. And I think our children today are missing that sense. And one of the things I want to talk to you about today, I'm going to skip over this one. So this is me as a little one, right here. Little blonde-headed kid growing up in Australia. That's me in the middle. And then the next slide is me on horseback. I'm the one about to slide off the back of the horse at the end there. You can go on. This is our farm in Australia in its greener days. It doesn't always look like this. But let's think about our children. Let's go all the way back to the time they come to school. I'm going to kind of challenge you a little bit on thinking about who these young people are and how we interact with these young people. So, our young people arrive at our doorstep. Let's take two children. One child is coming, last night had a really bad night, didn't get a story read to him, is kind of feeling really grisly, didn't get to wear his railway train pajamas, so wakes up in the morning and breakfast is a rush, the family is chaotic, and he goes off to school and gets to school completely discombobulated. His mind is shut down. It's going to take a while for him to settle. On the other hand, we have another child that skips down the pathway, had a wonderful night last night, had 2 stories read to her. She got to wear the perfect tutu dress to school this morning. She got her music on in the car. And when she got to school, she skipped down the pathway. That child's mind is open. And that reminds me of the importance of those 2 scenarios, the importance of routine, making sure that each day we set up our routines. In Montessori, the routine is set. Everything is laid out for the child. The child knows where everything is. The expectation of the day is very clear. So working with our parents is also getting them to understand the idea that our children don't live in houses like this. They need to live in a house that's up the right way, that has routines, that has things so I know in the morning when I wake up, I know that my breakfast is going to be ready. I know that I've laid out my clothing by myself. I know where my shoes are. I know every aspect of my morning routine. I think this is really, really important at the start of the day. Go to the next one. So I look at children and I think of the idea of terroir. So terroir is a French word meaning land. So I love wine, so I enjoy drinking a glass of wine every now and then. So if you think about a glass of wine, it's not just a red liquid in a glass. It starts way back with the soil. It starts with the roots of the plant. How old is the grapevine? What aspect of the hill is the grapevine growing on? Is it sun in the morning, sun in the afternoon? Is it in a cool climate? Is it in a warm climate? Every aspect. Does the dew hit it first thing in the morning? Who is the person that picks the grapes? How is that process taken out? When it goes to the vintner, how is it handled? Is it handled gently? Then the wine is pressed. And then we put the wine in a bottle and we create a label for that wine. In other words, the dress. How does that look? What does that tell us? And then we pour that wine into a glass. Now I'm drinking an entire essence of everything that went into that wine. This is our children. It is the essence of everything that goes into the child. From what they do out on the playground, to where they come from their home, how their trip from home to school was, what your classroom looks like, how you treat them, how you greet them, and how they interact with their peers in their classroom. So thinking about the child, we have to think about this idea of terroir. So I'm going to give you another opinion of mine. So we talk about education and we have all of these highfalutin ideas about education. But I have a reality for you, and that is that I think education comes in three forms. The first one is experience. The more experiences you can give a child, the more they are able to find their true calling in life. I believe very, very strongly, one of my core beliefs is that I believe that every single child on the planet, every single one, is the greatest at something, but very few really find out what they are great at, because from the moment they're born, their experiences are limited and limited and limited. So if we're about education and we're about the development of the child, the more experiences we can give that child, the better they will be able to discover the thing that really gets to their heart, the thing that they want to be. Who am I going to be when I'm an adult? Who am I going to be right now? So education is about experience. The second one is experience. And then we can all say it together in a big loud voice. The third one is experience. Exactly. Really allowing our children to find and discover all the things that make them excited is what we need to do. So I think about children in three different ways. I think about the child as an academic child. This is the sense of discovery. Everything the child needs to learn, they need to discover for themselves. It is really boring when somebody tells me what the discovery is. It's kind of like the end of the movie. Oh, this is what happened, the Titanic sank. Great. Now I'm not going to watch the movie. No, I need to discover that for myself. Children, take the word academic out and just put the word discovery, the sense of discovery. The social emotional child is the sense of wonder about the world. The world is a magical place. When I did my early childhood training in Montessori, I remember one of the very first lessons that I got was the Pink Tower, which is one of the wonderful materials of Montessori. And as we were building the Pink Tower, my trainer was showing me, and I was watching very, very diligently, and we're building the big tower, and we're going, and we're bringing it, and we're using exercise to go and get each block, and we're building it, and we're building it. And the very final, tiny little cube, she would go, pick it up, and not put it directly on. She would go, that's magic. That's discovery. That's the sense of wonder that you give the child as you're introducing them to every aspect of education. And the last one is the physical child. And that is the sense of adventure. Everything in life is an adventure. It's a road that I need to discover. It's a road that I need to take. I have a great poet. I always love the line, it's two roads diverged in a hidden wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. So making sure that even the physical child is this idea of the sense of wonder. So we have the sense of adventure, the sense of wonder, the sense of discovery, keeping those things going. In thinking about this idea when I was growing up on the Australian bush and thinking about that snake and the spiders and how I survived, I've really done a lot of thinking and observing children and thinking about this idea of the anthropological look at a child. In other words, thinking about who our children are on an from where we've been. So I'll tell you, when I was growing up, we had a rotary telephone and a party line, really basic stuff. I have the world book of every piece of information in my pocket and my cell phone. That has happened over the last 30 years. We have transitioned from fairly basic things to right now we're going into AI where everything is just done for us. Our mind has not developed that quickly. Our self has not developed that quickly. Human development and even mammal development, any animal takes generations and generations to develop and adjust to new environments. It takes time. But we're not giving our children time. We're shoving them and kicking them into the future in a really, really horrific way. So think about this idea. When children are misbehaving in your classroom, don't think that they're being naughty. They have a need. That need might be, I want to roll around on the floor, my body just needs to move. Oh, I want to run, I want to climb, I need to scream, I need to go find something. We have to try and discover what is the anthropological need that is calling from the inner part of the child right now. What is their need? It's not what I'm going to give them, it's what that they need to go and do for themselves. So you think about this, keep this in your forefront of your mind. What is this child asking me to give them or allow them to do right now? The behavior is a manifestation of their way of asking you to allow me to go back to my anthropological roots. So, in thinking about how we allow our children to be able to be free out in nature, to be able to run around, to explore, to dig in the dirt, to climb trees, do all those kind of things, one of the challenges that I know you will have is convincing your parent body that this is good for children. I always start with the idea of executive functions. What do we want our child to be, look like? Who do we want them to be when they grow up? I would like my children to have a good grasp of executive functions. I'm going to go through them really, really quickly. You probably all know them, but I'll give you a little quick reminder. The first one is inhibition. This idea that I can actually move forward in something. I don't allow other things to stop me. The second one is shift. I can move from one activity to the other. I can do something here, and without interruption, I can move to the next activity. So I have an easy transition from one activity to the next. Emotional control. In our high school, I have kids in our high school that have no emotional control. I have young adults that are teaching children that don't have emotional control yet. Where that's gone, I don't know, but we need to repackage it and get it back to our young people. So emotional control. To be able to kind of say, oh, I've broken up with my girlfriend, but I got to work. Oh, so I'm going to be mindful and I'm going to be present in my work. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to put it on the shelf and I'm going to do my work. That's emotional control. Initiation, the ability to start something. If I'm going to write a book, just put the first letter on the page and just start putting things down. Initiation, be able to start something. Working memory, really critical, and that is back when we talked about shift. I'm doing an activity over here and I've learned something. I'm now doing another activity. I'm going to take what I learned here and I'm going to apply it over here. Now I'm building my toolbox of knowledge. And what I learned here and here, I'm going to move over and work over here. So this idea of taking what I'm learning and applying it as I go along. Planning and organizing, making sure that I have the materials that I need, I've got everything ready. Our Montessori students, when they go to do a work, they go and get the rug and they lay the rug out. They get their tray and they put their tray out. They have everything they need to be able to do the work. And then they go. So planning and organizing. And then the organization of materials. Where are they so that I have easy access to them? Research at universities are now showing that children that have done Montessori early childhood, practical life, have much better success at being successful at university because they have these tools of planning, organizing materials. And then self-monitoring, just taking care of yourself, making sure that in the morning when I wake up, I have my coffee, I have my breakfast, I'm ready to go. When I have to start work, I've taken care of myself, I'm ready to go. Whether you meditate, or you go for a run, or you go to the gym, whatever you do in the morning, taking care of yourself so that when you are on task, you are ready to go. It's like that child that's coming to school in the morning. Just having everything taken care of so when they walk into your classroom, their mind is open and they're ready to work. So how do you support these ideas in children? And I put it down for risk-taking. Nothing was ever created without risk. Failure is probably one of the greatest learning experiences children can have. If we do not fail, we are not taking the risk to learn more. We're staying in the safety zone. We need to be out of the safety zone, taking risks and discovering. So kids like to build forts. I will tell you, elementary kids and a stick, it's the greatest thing. It could be a Rolls Royce, but they would switch it for a stick. They love sticks, to be able to build things. Climbing, jumping, rolling, carrying, all those physical activities is really, really critical also in early childhood. Even all the way down to infant toddler, being able to roll, jump, climb, carry. Playing hunting and gathering games. We're mammals. Human beings are mammals. It is part of our DNA. It is also part of how we work the neurons in our brain to connect with each other, how we connect and develop those pathways for success with our body. Where is my feet according to my brain? How do I walk? How do I move? Developing friendships with animals. The care of another creature, the care of another plant is really important in building empathy. Making sure that I have empathetic feelings for something else. And the best way to do that is for care of animals. Because if you're going to read a book to a dog. Because they're not going to criticize you the way you're reading. They're not going to correct you. They're just going to sit there happily, give you a lick, and then move on. So, looking after animals, taking hikes, walking in natural areas. The research, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later on, but the research tells us that 5-10 minutes in a natural environment resets the brain. That's incredible when you think about that. That's anthropological. That's human development over hundreds and hundreds of years. That nature has the power to reset our brain. Tells our brain, stick all the stuff you don't need. All the stuff you do need, let's categorize that. We're taking a break right now. The green space is allowing us to be able to feel free. Creating pickup games. This is political analysis. How do I work with a group of other children to play a game? Who's going to make up the rules? Who's cheating? Who's not cheating? How do I navigate that? How do I navigate that verbally? And then how do I navigate it as a sports person that's going to do the right thing within that game? Because I will tell you, if you cheat, nobody wants to play with you. They want to go and play with the kids that are not cheating. So you learn pretty quickly, that's not really a good idea. I have to do my best within the rules that we have set up as a community. And so on. There's many, many, many others. So I talked a little bit about this idea of green space. The theory right now is called attention restoration theory. It says, attention restoration theory predicts that when the student's brain interacts with nature, there is a shift in the brain's attention system. The shift towards relaxation restores the lost mental energy, allowing students to rest in green areas during breaks, can rejuvenate them and improve their readiness to learn. This is really powerful stuff. Just allowing your kids to just go outside after about an hour or 2 hours, to sit for 5 minutes, meditate for 5 minutes. A study by Rathundi, a professor at the University of Minnesota, studied that the adolescent student needs to be able to connect to green spaces just for a short time every 2 hours. So just imagine, close your eyes, take off your shoes, and put your feet on wet grass. How does that make you feel? It kind of relaxes our entire body. It kind of goes up through our entire being, bringing ourselves, connecting ourselves back to natural things. Children and germs. This is the one that everyone kind of wonders about. So there's now the hygiene hypothesis, and I'll read that to you. The hygiene hypothesis holds that when exposure to parasites, bacteria, and viruses is limited early in life, children face a greater chance of having allergies, asthma, and other autoimmune diseases during adulthood. Professor Tom McDade at Northwestern University has been doing this research. Microbial exposure in early childhood, exposure to animal feces, and a child that has had more cases of diarrhea indicated that later in life, the adult would have less or no sign of inflammation of the gut, heart disease, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. So when you think about that, I realize that what they're saying is that our gut is our immune system. And if we are able to keep that flora and fauna in our gut healthy and have everything in there we need, we'll be much, much healthier. Over-sanitization of our environments kills all of those bacteria. Trace your mind back to a little baby. Little baby, now they're moving, they're exploring the world, they're grabbing everything. Where does the hand go? Right into their mouth. Why is their hand going into the mouth? Go back to that anthropological ideal. It's going into the mouth because they're putting their environment into their gut to build the flora in their stomach to withstand all of the bacteria and the diseases that are coming up. When I was a little kid and my next door neighbors had measles, my mother took me over there for a play date because she wanted me to get measles when I was little and not wait until I was an adult much earlier. So when somebody's got measles, okay kids, let's go! Off we go! So thinking about that is really, really important. I always put this up as a bit of a joke. It says, today's 3-year-olds can switch on a laptop and open their favorite apps. Me, when I was 3, I ate them. Pretty simple. So Montessori also talked to us about this idea of the importance of nature. If you look around at some of the photographs of Montessori, some of the older photographs, every time you see a photo of Montessori with children, she's outside. She's not inside a classroom, she's out in nature. Montessori said, and her writing was spectacular, so incredibly beautiful writing. She says, but if for the physical life it is necessary to have the child exposed to the vivifying forces of nature. That's everything that happens in the world. Rain and wind, lightning, thunder, all of those kind of things. It is necessary for his physical life to place the soul of the child in contact with creation in order that he may lay up for himself the treasure from the directly educating forces of living nature. What she's saying there is she wants the child to see that animal in the classroom. She wants the child to see the animal being born and the animal dying, the cycle of life. That's how they learn. They learn that by watching and doing. The method of arriving at this end is to set the child at agricultural labor. Take the word agricultural labor out and just put in nature labor. Being outside, growing the bean in a little cup, having plants inside your classroom where you can water them, you can feed them, you can look after them. Because if you neglect them, they're going to die. Whoop, go back. Sorry. The method of arriving at this end is to set the child at agricultural labor, guiding him to the cultivation of plants and animals, and so to the intelligent contemplation of nature. In other words, they're watching and absorbing nature and understanding the cycle of life. We can talk to children all about birth and death, but until they experience it, they don't really understand what is happening. And that goldfish in the tank that you come in the morning and it's floating upside down, don't quickly scoop it out and put another one in and say, oh, this is Harry, same guy as yesterday, nothing's changed. No, you need to let the child see that Harry's died. So as a group, we talk about that, and then we'll replace Harry with another fish on another day. Next. So now the 10 dangerous things you should be allowing your children to do. So the first one is to climb trees. Children need to be able to reach and grab. So imagine that 3-year-old or 2.5-year-old that goes out to a tree, and there's a branch about this high up the ground. And they run out and they're so excited about climbing the tree, they can't quite reach. Then each day they play and they do it with their other students. And each day they'll go over that tree and they'll try. And then each day they try. Then one day they finally manage, their foot reaches that branch. I've grown. I'm bigger now. So allowing your children to I can't teach a child that. They have to learn that for themselves. Allowing them to experience these, and going back to risk-taking too, being a little further. I will tell you, at my school, children climb trees. We don't rescue them out of the tree if they get stuck. They stay there. Because if I rescue them, then they will not know where their limits are. They will take risks that are beyond their ability of risk-taking. And that's when risk-taking becomes dangerous. That is a really important key right there. That it is great for kids to climb trees, but if they go too far beyond their ability, then it becomes dangerous. So allowing children to understand where their ability is, where they need to stay stopped, where they then have to stand and go, okay, where do I go next? Can I go next? Can that branch hold me? Because I want those children, when they're 19 and I give them the car keys, I want them to be able to make those same decisions about what is risk-taking, where I need to be, where I cannot need to be. Play with water. We are primal. Water is such an attractive. How many of you have children? How many of you struggle to get them in the bathtub, but then when they're in there, you can't get them out? Because once they have that sensorial experience around, and it's an all-body sensorial experience. It's bringing you back to our basic instincts of who we are as humans. So playing with water is another really sensorial experience for children. Throwing things, really, really important. I have middle school kids, adolescent students, that if I throw a tennis ball at them, they can't catch it. But think of the hand-eye brain coordination, which is really important for writing, for every aspect. So if I'm throwing a tennis ball and I want my friend in the back of the room to catch it, I've got to throw it and let it go at the exact right spot. I've got to throw it with the exact right trajectory. I've got to make it sail through the air and land right at my friends. That is actually pretty advanced mechanics. So practicing with your children over and over again, throwing, catching, throwing. Do it with eggs is really good too, because you can make a mistake. Making sure you skip rope too, foot, eye, hand coordination, all of those things. Getting them to understand their body. Their body is constantly changing and growing. So having these activities done all of the time is really, really important as well. Play with fire. Here, kid, box of matches, go burn something down. No, absolutely not. But once again, it is one of those primal things. We, in our outdoor environmental ed program, we have the kids, we build fires with the kids. It is one of the most mesmerizing, relaxing experiences. Children everything just leaves them. And they sit, they smile, and they watch the flame. Once again, as human beings, we sat around the fire, we told stories, we heard our oral history of our society around the fire. So those connections are really, really important. Cook with real equipment. So the toy industry, very, very smart in the 70s, reinvented everything that I have in the kitchen, but in plastic. You try and cook on a fire with a plastic kettle, or saw with a plastic saw, or put a nail in with a plastic hammer. It's abuse. We should be giving our children real tools so that they can be successful and not struggle because that plastic saw won't saw anything. So cook with real equipment, dig holes, use shovels and rake, have equipment out. So people always say to me, isn't that stuff dangerous? I will tell you, in a Montessori classroom, a red rod without good training is also very dangerous. Kid can swing that around and bonk somebody on the head very quickly. But we always teach our children the materials. We teach the children how to use the material, to be respectful of the material. It's the same with a shovel or a hoe. If you teach a child how to use it, to be respectful, it has a place in the garden shed. We can take it out, use it, we can put it back, we look after it. Every tool has a specific job. We don't use the tool in a manner in which it wasn't designed. Then it's no longer dangerous because the children understand how they use it. The same as them using knives inside in the kitchen to cut up vegetables. Build things with a hammer and nails, which we just talked about. Another great activity in your classroom you can put out on the veranda is get a big stump and give them nails and a hammer. Trying to hit the nail on the top of the head with a hammer is another good eye-hand coordination skill. And they'll sit there for hours practicing getting that right. Once again, practice makes perfect, they become good hammerers. Freedom to explore on their own, and the last one is free to run in the woods and anything else you would like your kids to be able to do. So really, really important. All of these things allow children to be able to explore, to be able to take risks and develop. So we're going to go, the reason I'm telling you all this is we're trying to develop in our children what is called the caution meter. The caution meter is that little thing that says, stop, don't put your hand on a hot stove, you'll get burned. Or if we get close to a cliff, it's telling me, oh, I don't want to go too close because I might fall off. But there are a lot of nuances within that idea of the caution meter. Remember I told you about the child going up too far on the tree, or the child that we give the car keys to at 18? Having them develop these limits, they're self-limiting ideas that allow them to decide what is good, what is not good, by practicing and practicing and practicing in many different situations. So all of these things is to build the caution meter. So what can I do? If I have my children outside, there's a number of things that you can do for yourself. That's one of our sheep at our school. There. So this one, I'm going to play the video, so skip to the next one. These are our students on our farm. We have a farm at our school. So in Wisconsin, it can be minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit through the winter time. That means the water freezes, it gets cold. So, and it click, it'll go, the video start. There we go. So this is our high school students. Every morning and every afternoon have to go out and look after the animals, to take care of the animals, to feed them, to water them, to make sure that they have everything that they need. The temperature right here is probably about minus 15 degrees. So our animals are outside, they have a barn, but the students are going looking after them. You may not have this kind of space at your school, but you may be able to have a plant inside or an animal inside that they can look after. It's that responsibility to be able to look after the animals. We'll go to the next one. I often get a teacher saying, I have no idea what to do in the outdoor environment. I don't know what, I'm not comfortable out there myself, so how am I to take my students outside? Go back to really simple stuff. Think about just the senses. We're going to use the outside and explore our senses. So for example, sight. So we're going to go for a little hike today, and I want you to observe one thing that you like. Whether you want to observe a tree, or you want to observe a flower, or you want to, whatever you want to do, allow them to observe. The other thing you can do is our children, if you don't have a lot of nature in your backyard, our children come to school. Some of them come 2-3 miles. They pass a lot of nature. It's out there. It's everywhere. So you can say to the students, okay, I've got this guidebook. This guidebook is about birds. So I'm going to leave it on the shelf. And when you come to school, when you're coming to school in the car, look out. See if you can see a bird. So they've seen the bird, they come in and they run to the book and they look it up and they realize, oh, I saw a blackbird, but there are 20 blackbirds in the book. That didn't work. So next day when I see that blackbird, I'm going to look a little deeper. That blackbird had red wings. I run to the book when I get to school. Oh, there are 3 birds with black and red wings. Next day, I'm going to look a little deeper. It was a small bird. So getting them to kind of realize that observation is not just the very first thing I see. I have to kind of think a little deeper. I have to understand a little bit deeper. So using their sight to give them information and to practice observing and being a critical observer. Smell is really, really wonderful. You've seen lots of dogs around. Dogs always have wet noses because a wet nose makes you smell way better. So get a sponge, go outside and put the sponge on your nose, make your nose nice and wet, then smell the flowers. And it's way stronger, way more beautiful. Having a sense garden in your outside, which might have some mint and some different herbs, or bringing in herbs from the local market so the children can smell those herbs using their senses. But try and get them outside to find those different senses of smell. Touch is really important. This is a fun one you can do. Is blindfold, have the two children, blindfold one of the children, and have the other child kind of spin them around, wander them around, wander them around, wander them around, and take them to a tree. And with the blindfold, they have to feel that tree, and then you spin them around, you take them back, then you take the blindfold off. They have to find that tree again from just touch. So another really wonderful, and they'll play that all day. Really, that's so much fun to be able to kind of discover, or it's a rock, or anything you want to be able to have that. Hearing. Our world is full of noise now, and there's so much noise out there. So if I ask the students to sit quietly and listen, for the first 10 minutes, they hear the immediate noise around them, car horn, things like that. But if they really focus, you can listen through the noise to the more subtle sounds. And if you can get your kids to be able to do that, sometimes that takes a little focus, a little concentration to try and hear through the noise. That can also be done out in nature. You can kind of hear the rustling of the leaves. You can hear maybe some of the bird calls and so forth. Taste is always fun, having the kids looking at wild edibles, those kind of things. So think about this idea of, I'm just going to focus on the senses, because we all can do that. That doesn't take a lot. I don't need to know a lot about science. I don't need to know a lot about nature. All I need to know is we all have 5 senses. Let's go out and explore one of them today and go through those. Go to the next one. Stories. Children love stories, and they love the same stories over and over again. Doing stories that have animals and plants as part of their theme. Connecting them through storytelling to what's going on out in the natural world. Doing stories that have adventures in them. When they get into elementary classrooms, there are lots of wonderful books on young people's adventures out in nature. Those kind of things are fun as well. Finding peace and silence, just being quiet outdoors, being mindful outdoors is another really critical way for children just to enjoy nature. One of the things that we focus on in our outdoor program is allowing children to be comfortable with nature. Many children are very uncomfortable with nature. I don't like bugs. I don't like to get dirty. I don't like trees. I don't like the wind. So you've got to ease them into enjoying nature. So you want to make all your adventures outside positive. So everything that they do outside has to be positive so they get to enjoy being in nature. And you can start by just doing some journaling outside in nature. Find a nice little rock and you can write or draw in your journal. So I'm going to switch now to the importance of play as it's connected to nature. Because this is really the area, when I was a young child, it was all about play. I was outside playing in the woods and going down to the creek and catching frogs and playing in the water and running up in the hills and building fort. Play was a critical part of my early childhood development. Really important. And the research now is showing that play plays a critical importance in the development of mammals as a species. That if you look at all mammals, in younger mammals, little ones, play is the way they learn the social connections of their environment. Play is the way they learn hunting and getting food. Play is the way they learn dominance of each other and how that works within their community. So I'm going to use 2 terms. One is discover mode, and the other one is defend mode. So if we think about, if you look at, this is what we call the worst kind of playground on the planet. Because this here is defend mode. In other words, every piece of play equipment in there, I have to defend myself to either get on, or the bullies are going to push me off, or I'm not going to be very successful. This is not discover mode at all. So what is defend mode? Defend mode is when the body is in a defensive posture. In other words, I don't feel comfortable, I feel under attack, I don't like the environment I'm in, I feel pressure, I'm stressed out. Our children are now spending more time in defend mode And this idea of stress, constant stress, especially on social media and on computer platforms. So our children are getting a lot of this idea of defend mode. Discover mode is when my brain is completely open, I am completely relaxed, and I want to discover something. I want to build something. I want to play a game. I want to create a game. So as we go through this, think about these two concepts. What's going to work with defend mode? What's going to work with discover mode? So this is definitely defend mode. This is discover mode. It's a video. So I'm going to allow this to play through and I'm going to describe it. This is our playground at our school. So we have no play structures whatsoever. And does this have sound by any chance? Well, if you did have sound, all you hear is laughter. So this is a group of 40 3 to 6 year olds. They have been now playing. This is 2.5 hours into play. Not like 5 minutes that they just ran out there. No, 2.5 hours into play that they're out there playing. And as you can see, there are children doing all different kinds of things. They're building with rocks. They're talking to each other. There's political communities going on. There's kids digging in the dirt. There are kids playing by themselves. There are students playing with groups. They're enjoying this experience. But what you do not see is adults. The adults are sitting in armchairs having Mai Tais up on the side of the hill. No, not really. But the adults are up, out of the way, not getting involved, and all they're there to do is, I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, off you go. That's all you're there for. The rest, this is the child's work. And this allows them to choose what they want to do. If you notice, there's a little girl running around. Where is she? Not here. She's always by herself and just kind of enjoying. You'll see her in a second, I think. She'll come on. She's playing by herself, just really enjoying being out in the environment by herself. So we're going to go to the next video. And the next one. Click again. Yeah. So this is another really simple. These are 3 to 6 year olds again. Rolling, tumbling. Using their body and just kind of rolling down the hill and having those kind of natural experiences. You can see those children, when they're at the end of this, they've got adventures to talk about. They're having an incredible time. Very, very simple. And people say, well, don't your kids get hurt? Yes, they'll get a scratched knee, or maybe a little bump. But a scratched knee and a bump never hurt anybody. I broke my arm, my right arm, 7 times before the age of 18. And I'm still here and it works really well. So, rolling, all of those things. We're going to go to the next one. Nature is set up perfectly for students to be in that open mode. Because nature has loose parts. It doesn't it doesn't tell us to do anything with it. We get to create it. We get to do whatever we want with it. The human need to control nature versus nature's need for freedom and randomness. We don't have to build a natural environment for students. It's out there. We just have to discover it and allow our students to discover it for themselves. It's another video. This is our music room. Really simple. We did not set this up at all. The students found these logs, they found the sticks, they did all this themselves. What we do is we take the students to a spot and then we step back and allow the students just to do. And they will be there for hours and hours and hours without any interruption. This is pure, beautiful play. Going to the next one. This is a group in China that created an outdoor environment within their school. And the idea was water. And they created all kinds of different water aspects for the students. And then the other thing that they did is they gave all of these students these rain outfits that are completely sealed all the way up to the neck. So they can jump and do whatever they want, roll around in it, do whatever they want, and they stay totally dry. But as you see, the thing you notice is there's tons and tons of materials there for them to use. And none of the materials are saying, do this with me. They're all saying, oh, you can do whatever you want with me. You can pile them up, you can sort them out. And there's one more after this one. And this one here. And this one here I really like because the engineering that's going on in this young lady's mind to get this thing built is incredible. The brain synapses, the neurons that are moving like crazy. She wants to make this the perfect channel for water, and she's not going to let it bleed up. Even though it's difficult. Now, if we made that really easy, there'd be very little learning going on. But the struggle allows for this learning, and she is building and creating herself. This is what play is about. This is anybody can do these kind of things in their playground. Not build them for students, but put things out there to allow students to create and build for themselves. This is our elementary kids out in the woods, and they build forts with sticks. So if you don't have any woods, but one of the things you can do is just have random pieces of wood, random pieces of polythene pipe the students can build with. They want to be able to build. This is one of the innate kind of needs of the elementary child, is to build, to create, and allowing them the opportunity to be able to create by providing them materials and then not the opportunity. So the kids get really annoyed because they're out here for the year and they build this amazing fort. Then after a while it gets really dull and the students get bored. So I come in and destroy their forts. Then they get mad at me, but then they go and start again and build a completely new, different kind of fort. But if I didn't destroy it, they would kind of keep it, and it just becomes this possession. And the whole creativity goes away. So making sure that things don't get too boring in your playground. Every now and then you go in and say, oh yeah, the janitor came in and we moved everything, and we've got a big pile of stuff here. Sorry, I forgot to tell him. And then the kids start again from the beginning. We're going to go to the next one. This I'm going to, because we're running really short on time, this is my last section that I want to talk about. It's doing art in nature is another really wonderful thing you can do outside. And this is so simple. If you play, I'm going to play the video very quickly. So this is an inspiration from a gentleman called Andy Goldsworthy. And he creates art out of natural pieces. So what you're looking at there is a whole bunch of leaves in the fall put together. Or these are insect marks on the back of leaves he's kind of put together. So he kind of creates all different natural objects, natural ideas, and creates art out of it. Nothing is permanent. This is a beautiful piece that he creates. You could only do this in winter. I don't know if you could do it here, but in Wisconsin you definitely can do this. And then I'm going to show you what the children do. So this is one page. So kind of creating different experiences. So we're going to skip over this now. And this is what the children create. So there's a bunch of slides you can go through just slowly. So they've taken natural objects and just kind of creating really interesting patterns and ideas. And there's once again, they're not being told what to create. They'll go and find for themselves and create interesting ideas and patterns for themselves. So they're using rocks and leaves, different things. This is the rainbow. This is early childhood. Go back one. Yeah. This was done by a group of early childhood students that used grass and sticks and different things to make a place. Go on to the next one. This one's quite brilliant. This was done by a 9-year-old. And what he did was he broke every single rock in half to make that in a circle. That's real creativity, real creativity. Nobody taught him how to do this. He just had to go out in the woods and find things that he wanted to use, and this is what he came up with. It's a stunningly beautiful piece. But it took a lot of work, because he had to break every single rock in half. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. This is done with Mullen's different bases that the students are able to do. And go through to the next one. So kind of thinking about this idea of giving your students inspiration in nature and then allowing them to have the space to be able to go out and create and to build for themselves. And go on. So that's the gentleman that did that was the original inspiration of art. Says, I want to get under the surface. When I work with a leaf, a rock, a stick, it is not just the material itself, it is an opening into the process of life within and around it. When I leave it, these processes continue. In other words, I leave it and it just kind of disappears. So I wanted to have a little bit of time at the very, very end to see if there are any questions of how are we doing for time.
We're out of time, but it's okay.
Oh, we're out of time.
We can take one or two questions. I just wanted to recognize Mr. Geoffrey Bishop, professional artist,
Okay.
who has been doing some incredible work on the environment also. And a lot of his work is with very fine drawings of trees. But I just wanted to say that you have a professional artist here who's looking at what you're doing with admiration.
Great.
So, but yeah, please, very quickly, those of you who have some questions in the back, you can.
Anybody? I did a great job there. No. Hi.
Just a thought, I wanted your views on, like you mentioned about routine, like how children get into a routine. Hello everyone. So you mentioned how young children, they should have a routine. And let's say in a situation when there is a break in the routine or there is a change, then I've seen children get very disturbed.
Yes.
And what can be the possible ways to cope up?
So when our students are outside, you always have at the end of research that come in. That is one of the most difficult times, transitions are one of the most difficult times for children to handle. So you have to prep your children for transitions. So I always say, in about 10 minutes we're going to be going inside. So what you've done is you've set a trigger for the child, I've got 10 more minutes. But if I say we're going straight inside now, that child just about to discover the greatest discovery of life. Now I've got to leave. Whereas if I've got 10 minutes, I can work through it a little bit. So preparing your children for transition is really important. When you're talking to your parents, if things are going to change, it is important for them to communicate that change with the child. Don't just pretend the kid doesn't need to know, because they're going to end up screaming and upset. The preparation is really important. So we say 10 minutes, we're going to be going, then we give them a 5-minute warning, then we give them a 1-minute warning. And 99.9%, in about 2 minutes before we've already go, kids are already starting lining up. Because they're putting things away, they're finishing that conversation, they're kind of packing things up. They understand, okay, we've got to go inside, that's just what we do. But now I've got time to prepare myself for that transition. In the traditional school system, when that bell goes and everyone pours into the hallways, it's just like sharks in a shark tank. It's just the worst. So kids don't get an opportunity to kind of really, because that transition is supposed to be a relaxing time as well. A lot of the times it's not, because they have no idea what's going on. And for parents, really emphasizing this idea, please make sure you tell your children if things are going to change. If you always take a child and tomorrow dad's going to take a child, as you're putting them to bed, it's like, tomorrow dad gets to take you to school today. Now the child is now looking forward to it, rather than next morning when she might be a little grizzly and dad's taking, and she thought mum was going to take it, and I wanted to have a conversation with mum, and now mum's not going, and now I'm really upset, and everything is ruined, and my whole day is ruined, and my life is the end. It's done. On the screen.
Geoffrey, I often suggest that preparing ahead of time before transition is very important. Another thing very important is if the adults can be a little bit flexible, especially resident indoor work. And I used to tell my children when I used to teach, we're going to put your name label on it. We can come back to it later. And I would respect that, like you as a puzzle bag at all. I would put it on the table where it was not going to be touched by the cleaners or any other child. Outside, you can do the same thing. Like we can say, okay, these are your sticks you have collected. I'm going to make sure they're there tomorrow. I'll pick it up in a bucket and bring it out tomorrow for you. So we have to be a little bit flexible, find ways and means to cater to their needs.
Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day.